In this video, I'm going to cover pie charts and pretty much everything you need to know about them. And so we'll go over all the basics, how to create pie charts. And by the end of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to build something like this that will have a chart with a possible filter on your data. So you could switch to different options here, and your pie chart will update depending on what you choose in a drop-down list. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is our data set, and we are going to build some charts out of it. Now the first thing we need to know about pie charts is that they only support data with one column labels and one column values. So you cannot have any multi-column type of situation when you can use that data to actually make a pie chart. So the end result that you're looking for is a label. So for example, if we have three things, let's say apples, oranges, and bananas. And then for each one of these, you want corresponding numbers. So I'm going to just type some numbers here. This is the type of data that pie chart will support. So now it will work if I simply just highlight this data, the first column being the labels and the second column being values for those labels. Go under insert and do a chart. And you can see how it actually automatically picked a pie chart in this case. Now it may or may not automatically pick a pie chart, but if it doesn't, you can always go under this chart type and scroll down and select the pie. And then you will have the pie chart. I'm going to delete this, clear this. And now I'm going to use this data on top to build a pie chart on it. Now again, I can't use the whole thing. So I have to use a column of labels, which will be this column of brands. And I have to choose a value column. So it can be any one of these columns as a value. So if I want to show total sales breakdown, then I would use this column of sales, right? If I wanted to know number of sales in Western region, then I would be using this column. So let's start by creating a pie chart that will show us sales by brand. So for that, I will just highlight this data, see the column of labels and column of values. Go under insert, chart, and by default, see it went for a column chart. So again, it will pick what it picks. You can choose what you need. So I'm going to go here under chart editor, under data tab, go under chart type, and scroll down until I find pie. There's the pie chart. I'm going to click on it. So now it transfers that into a pie chart. Now you can see how we have all of these different brands, and it shows what percentage each brand is in overall total. And as you roll over, it will also show you the brand and the dollar amount. Let's go over a few different things. So this shows the pie chart that's total sales by brand, right? So what if I wanted to do total number of sales in Western region? So to do this, I have to go under this data tab and see here you have this label column. So the label, as you remember already, this is the column of labels. Now that's not what I'm trying to change. The labels should be the same. What I want to change is values. So values right now is this column of sales, which is this B column. So if I go here and click on this little icon here, click edit, it will allow me to change which column I should be using. So right now it goes from B1 to B11, which is this range of numbers. Now I want to use this column, which is E column. So I simply just go and overwrite this. I just go E1 through E11. Now that it's done, I'm going to press OK. And now the illustration would be the number of sales by brand. So if I roll over this, see it says 116 sales for this particular brand, and then this one, and then this one, and so on. So if you needed to modify your columns, you can. You simply just have to go here, click on the icon. If you need to change the column that should be the label, you change this one, obviously. Otherwise, you do this one, which is values. Now I'm going to switch this back to sales column, which is column B. Hit OK. So now what I want to do is modify some things about this chart. So I'm going to go under this Customize tab. And I'm going to start with chart style, which is the first one on top. So if I open that, see, it gives me some options. So for example, if I don't like the background color to be white and I need a different color, I can go here and pick a different color as a background color. So you can also change the font that should be used in this chart. If you don't like this font, you can switch to a different font. That should work, or really any one of these. You can also do this 3D chart option, which will be this like 3D pie chart, which is nice, I guess. I'm gonna uncheck that. This maximize will simply just try to expand this to use as much of the space as possible. So I'm gonna uncheck that. I don't really like that. So that's overall chart style. So I'm gonna change this and go to pie chart as the next type. With pie chart, you can either have this regular pie chart, or you can do this donut type of pie chart. And what that means is that you can draw a hole in the middle of this pie. And that you do by going here and switching to a percentage. So if I do 25%, that would be 25%, hollow in the middle, and then 50%, and so on. If you don't like any of these percentages, you can also just type your own percentage. You can also apply a border color if you need to do that. For this, I'm going to do 0. That's fine. Then you can also do labels. So when you think about labels, you're thinking about this pie slices. And if you want to put something over that slice so you can see more information about it, you can go here under labels and then add it. So if I click label, remember labels are names. So if I click label, see, it's trying to add the names for each one, but for some of them it's not going to be able to fit because the label is too big. Now I assume if I expand the size of the pie, it will be able to kind of include more of those labels. We don't want the label, so I'm going to uncheck that. The value would be if you want dollar amounts to actually show up in your pie. Again, this will vary depending on how much space you have to show this information. So sometimes you may need to expand the size of your chart to actually show those. And then you can also do percentage, which will just show percentages right here. And you can also do both value and the percentage, which will actually require even more space. See, if I keep expanding, you'll see there's a dollar amount and a percentage at the same time. Now in this particular case, I'm not gonna use any of those options, but you probably should when you need them. So just to show you the rest, so if I switch to value option, so you can go here and change the font you want to use for those values. You can change the size for the font, so you can make it smaller so it fits. You can change the color for the font if you want to do that. I'll just do automatic, so it will go with colors it decides it should go. Or maybe we should just choose something like this. That's fine. You can make it bold, italic. Pretty straightforward, as you can see. So that's the pie information. And that brings us to the next thing, which is chart title and access title. So if I open this, see we have chart title. Chart title is this thing on top that says sales versus brand. You can just go here and modify it. So I'm going to say sales by brand, something like this, and that will show up here on top. Again, you can change the font, whatever font you want it to be. You can change the size of the font. Obviously, you can change the color of the font and all the same things. You can position it in the center if you want. You can also add a subtitle for the charts. So right now this one doesn't have a subtitle. So you can just switch to subtitle and add some subtitles. So I'm going to call this values in USD. Now you can see how this second line of title shows up as subtitle. And again, you can choose your font, you can choose the size, you can choose where it should be positioned, you can use the color. And there we have it. I'm actually going to change the background color back to white. So I'm going to go under back chart style and background color none, by the way, will be just transparent, as you can see. I don't want to do that, so I'll just do some white. So far so good. So next is series. So series are the actual, see the pie pieces, and what it allows you to do is to control what color they should be. So if you don't like, for example, that this New Balance is in blue color, you can just go here and pick New Balance and then change the color to any color that you think is good for your pie. So I can switch it to this one. Then let's say I also want to change this Adidas color. So I just go here. You can click on this. You can also select it from here. It's the same. And you can just change your color to whatever color you feel is appropriate. And that's our next color for it. So if you want to change your colors, this is where you do it. And finally, we have the legend. So if I go under legend, so the legend is like this right now. See this side stuff that gives us the brand name and the percentage? That's the legend right now. By default, it's under automatic positioning, which is this. Now, what you can do, you can transfer it to be in many different positions. So if I click here, I do none, well, it will just take it off. So no labels at all. If I do top, see, it will just put all those names with a color coding on top. Now the next one, so again, you can do bottom, you can do left, you can do right, you know. And finally, you have this option labeled. So labeled is gonna just do what it used to do before, which is this option, which for this case, I guess it's fine. And again, you can go ahead and style the font. Obviously, you can change the size of the font, you can do the color and all this stuff. So those are your customizations options in your pie chart, and you want to just go there, play around, get what you need. So most of the time you might want to just bring some of these values on top of your chart and add a title, maybe a subtitle. Would be most of customizations you're gonna need. Maybe change the colors, I guess. I'm sure you'll figure it out. So this should give you an idea how you actually make a pie chart in general. So the best option to do a pie chart is to lay your data this way, to have one column of labels, the second column of numbers, and by using those, you should be able to just create your pie. One thing to note here is that, see, since this is formatted as dollar amounts here in our data, sales amounts, it's going to show up in our charts in dollar amounts as well. So if you switch this formatting to something different, let's say we want to cut some decimal points, it will be also reflected in your chart. Another thing I want to mention is how you build a chart when your data is not like this, which is like a summarized data set, but instead it's more detailed data set. So let me give you an example of that. If I go under this transactions, I'm going to do control up to get to the top. So this is that data set before it was summarized. So I have, again, brands and I have sales, but now see, we have all these multiple lines for each brand, and we need to summarize and add up all Nikes together, all New Balances together, etc., and get the pie. Now you can actually do it directly on this chart. So you just go here, insert, and you do chart. Now I'm going to go here under chart type. I'm going to switch it to pie. Now you can see how I get this crazy thing happening. First, I have to make sure I select the right columns for labels and for values, because it has too many columns. It doesn't know what to do. So I'm going to go under label. See, it went under sales column. I want it to be the brand, which is column D. So I'm going to go here, click edit, and switch this instead of E to be D. Hit OK. And then I want values to be sales, which is E column. So I'm going to go here, edit, and do E column. Now again, the problem is we have all of these items that are repeating over and over again, and it just throws all of them in a chart, and we get this chart that is not really useful all that much. So what I need to do, I will have to go here and see there is this option aggregate column D, which is the first column we chose for labels. So if I click on that, it will sum those up together. So it just creates this chart. Obviously now you can go ahead and customize it, change colors and do all that stuff like usual. So you can go here and start customizing your chart. Now another thing probably worth mentioning is that, remember the way I changed the chart title, I went under chart and axis here, and then I typed what I want. Another way to do it, you can just go directly in a chart, see this, the title, just go and type right over it. Just like that. So if I wanted to change, let's say this color to a different color, I can just click on that piece and that will automatically take me to that part of customization. And then I can just go and select whatever color I think that should have been. So that gives you some options to get to things you need faster. Now, if those things are already in the chart, it will probably get there. Otherwise, you're going to have this customized tool that you're going to go and modify your chart. So hopefully that makes sense. That should cover pretty much how you make a pie chart. Now, what I'm going to show you is how we can make something that will give us like a drop down that will basically give us the same chart, only it will allow us to filter this by different regions from here. And obviously you could apply this logic to anything else. You could filter by location or by sales rep or some other thing. I'm going to delete this. To do this, I'm going to make 2 extra tabs. So I'm going to add 2 new tabs. One of these tabs I'm going to call data. The second one I'm going to call chart. Again, obviously you can call it anything you want. Now what I want here, first of all, I want a drop down here that will allow the user to pick one of our regions from this tab. To do this, I'm going to go here and I'll type region, and right next to it I want a drop down. So to do this, I'm going to have to use data validation. So I'm going to click in this cell, go under data, then data validation, and then list from a range. I'm going to click in this box on the right, and it's going to ask me to select the range. So I'm going to go to transactions. I wanted the user to pick one of these regions. So I don't want to include the label. I'm going to start from here. And then I need to select all the way down. So I'm going to do Control Shift down, and then thinking that we might be adding more data, I'll do Control Shift down one more time. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to reject any other input in that cell and then just hit save. So I'll do Control up here. Well, let's go back and look what happened. So now we should have this drop down that gives us different options. So it just gives unique values from that column that I had selected. Obviously you can style this, hopefully make it pretty, add some borders, etc. I'm not gonna concentrate too much on this. So the next part is what we need to happen as we're filtering this or changing these options, not really filtering. We need, based on the option that's selected here, we need our data to give us the correct results. So to do this, I'm going to build those results in this data tab. I'm going to go here. I'm going to use a function called query, and it's going to ask me for the data. So data is coming from transactions tab. So I'm going to go transactions. I'm going to select columns here from top, from A to I. I'm going to hit comma, and then it's going to ask me what's the actual query that I need to build. It has to be as text, so I'm going to do it in quotes. So I'm going to do select. So I just want to pick the brand column and sales column. So that's D and E. So I'm going to do select D, comma E, close this, and then comma again, and then the last argument would be number of header rows on top. So we have one row of headers, which is just one. I'm going to close parentheses, hit enter. So this should get it. So initially it gave me an error because if you don't have enough rows in this tab to fit the data, it's not able to fit it, but then it kind of goes and adds those rows automatically and then expands and then it works. But this gives me those two columns from that particular table. Now, what you can do in this query, now I have like tons of videos about this function, but we can filter the results from this by adding this where statement. And when I do where, I have to choose which column I'm filtering by. So I don't remember the columns. So we need to filter by this region column, which is column C. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say where C equals, and I have to do the value in single quotes. So I'm going to do that single quote. Let's do Midwestern for now and single quote again. So right now what should happen, this should just give me Midwestern instead of giving me everything. So before I did this where statement, it was just returning the whole column from this tab, which if we look here, it would be how many rows? About 4989. Right now, after this change, if I look on my results, see I have about a little over 2000 because we're now filtered to just Midwestern. And what I want to do, I just want to summarize this, and this function allows us to do that. So the way I'm going to do that, I have to summarize sales. So I'm going to go inside of this function and sales, remember D was brand and E was sales. So I'm going to do sum E, which is sum of sales. And then in the end, after this, I'm going to add a statement group by, and I'm going to group by column D, which is brand. So by doing this modification, if I enter, this should just summarize everything together, and I should just get the total for Adidas, total for next brand, and so on. It would probably be a good idea also to format this. Now, the problem with this is that this is really not connected to this. So no matter what we select here, whether it's Midwestern or Western or whatever, it's still going to show the same totals because it's hard-coded Midwestern here. So to adjust for that, first of all, if I go here, if you remember, this cell is B1 cell from this tab called chart. So I'm going to go back to this, and instead of typing Midwestern in single quotes here, I'm just going to remove that. And then what I have to do some text concatenation. And that means I have to break out of text, add some things, and get back in text. So I'm going to close this quote. This quotation now is closing this quotation here to break out of text. And then I have to get back into text here again. So I have to add another quotation here to get this last part of the text. And then here in the middle, I have to add the value from that other cell, because that's where we're going to choose, is it Midwestern or some other region. And to do this and sign, and that's like a plus sign for text. And then I'm going to refer to that B1 cell from chart tab. So I'm going to do chart exclamation sign B1. That's where that cell was located, and then do another and sign to do another addition. So what's going to happen now, this chart tab that has a B1 cell, that should have the value that we need. So if I hit enter, see, it gives us whatever these totals are, and those totals are for Western region apparently. So in Western region, Adidas is about 23,000. Now if I go back and switch this to Midwestern, if I go back and look, see, now it's 59,000. And as I'm changing this, that should be reflected here. So now that we built the system that I can just change this drop down and get totals for that region, then I can just use this data that's already the numbers we need as a base for our pie chart. So I'm going to click in this data set or select it like this. I'm going to do insert in chart. So we have this is not a pie chart, so we'll have to switch this actually. So pie, there it is. So it gives us our totals. Obviously we're going to go here and change the title for this chart, and then you'll change all the other colors and options and everything else. Now we want to move this chart to this chart tab. So to do that, I'm simply going to select the chart and I'm going to cut the chart. So you can do that by either doing edit cut, or what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Command X or Control X if you're on a different platform, and then I'll go under chart on this tab and I do Command V or Control V, which is basically paste. So I'm cutting and pasting it, and then obviously you can resize, do whatever you have to do, and there it is. That's my pie chart. And now the way it's going to work, I can just go here and switch to Midwestern and see everything should update. Let's add some values on top of this. So I'm going to do here, edit. I'm going to go under customize, pie chart, and we're going to add values and probably make this a little bigger and make the font size for those values smaller. I'm going to also just do the color white maybe for those values. So that should do it. So now if I go and change to this, see everything updates. I switch to the next one. Again, everything updates. And now we're working off of the other tab. Now, one thing you might want to do just to be safe, when you do this chart, you may want to just expand the range. So instead of going from A1 through A11, you may want to go from A1 through A100 or something. And then if I do that, I will have to also do it here. And the reason you might want to do something like this is just in case your data expands and new brands are being added, you want to have that automatically reflected in your chart. And that should do the chart that we were looking for. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.